Welcome to our home here, actually. Welcome, Corinne. Corinne and I, we want to unlock the intelligent enterprise today for you and talk a little bit about cloud ERP innovation of the future. This whole thing is more of a strategic context for all the topics around the cloud ERP track that we have prepared here for you at TechEd. My name is Jan Gilk. I'm the President and Chief Product Officer of Cloud ERP, so I'm responsible for our portfolio here. And Corinne, why don't you say a few words about yourself?
Yeah. Hello, and a warm welcome from my side too. I'm very thrilled to be here with you, Jan. I'm Karin from the ABAP Platform Product Management team, where I drive various activities for our customers and partners to better understand the ABAP extensibility strategy and also adopt the ABAP Cloud development model. I have a strong focus on the ABAP RESTful application programming model, which plays a central role in ABAP Cloud, and so we are.
Perfect. So I have all those ABAP deep dive questions directly for you. That's ideal. And by the way, you can actually put your questions in the Q&A tool here. Please do so. There's experts that answer them in the background, but we will have a couple of minutes, hopefully at the end, to answer some questions also live. So I would say let's jump right in. So yeah, you probably have all seen this so-called sunrise chart, which talks about our product strategy here at SAP. You see Cloud ERP is front and center. We do actually have two ERP solutions here. One is S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition. The other one is S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. And then we have a lot of advanced LOB capabilities that extend then the solution to a true Cloud ERP suite. It is all based on the business technology platform, which is our key development platform, but also extensibility platform. We do have two go-to-market motions, Grow with SAP and Rise with SAP. And I know sometimes this can be confusing. And therefore, we have also a session for you, which is DT100. It's right after this session, and it's about choosing the right path for your business to SAP S/4HANA Cloud. So that should all answer all the questions then in more details. So the session is actually about two main themes. One is integration, and the other one is extensibility. And let me start with integration. Karin here certainly is the expert on extensibility then, and is going to do the deep dive. Integration, we have launched at Sapphire Grow as a suite. And what we have done is actually to include SAP Sales Cloud and Concur expense capabilities into our Grow package together with S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition. And those are natively integrated, and they're available now to all of our Grow customers. At the end of the day, it's important to provide then a unified experience and a harmonized data model across those products that we brought together, because customers expect a true SaaS experience, software as a service, SAP managed, and therefore we are assembling best-of-breed capabilities together to a modular and composable cloud ERP suite, if you will, and you will see much more coming out soon. So let me show you what we mean when we talk about a suite. And there's three different contexts, as you can see here. I mentioned Grow as a suite. So the first one is, of course, S/4HANA Public Cloud Edition. That is not only anymore ABAP based, it is actually ABAP and BTP based. So there's multiple components that run on the business technology platform natively, and we have brought them very closely together. We have context type, which is really cloud products that are managed by SAP, and that would be something like the Sales Cloud or Concur Expense that I mentioned earlier. And then the third context type is really integrated cloud products from SAP. Those could be things like Ariba Sourcing, where there is definitely integration in place. We've invested quite heavily over the last couple of years, but it is more loosely coupled, I would say. But Grow as a suite is really, as I mentioned, where customers expect more of a SaaS experience from us. And why is that important? Because there's also clearly benefits associated with it. The first one, in my mind, is really the alignment around one data truth, because our products, they speak the same language. We have harmonized the data models. So a single vendor suite makes that much, much easier. The second one is visibility. Yeah, obviously, you want to have insights across all the different applications as needed. So take somebody who works in finance and runs reports, and they also want to have access to the HR data in their report. But the HR data comes then from SuccessFactors Employee Central, for instance. The end user obviously doesn't need to know that. They just want to answer their business questions, and that's what the suite approach can actually deliver. And then, of course, from a productivity perspective, we talk about end-to-end processes, especially in the cloud, that really span more than one single solution, like S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition. It's multiple solutions, and therefore, if you want to automate and optimize a process, then it does make sense to really tie those solutions very closely together. And then, of course, you can see then business improvements like inventory accuracy, reduced stocks, and so on. And there's benefits for IT as well. Of course, at the end of the day, it's such a landscape is much easier to monitor, to support, and so on. And actually, it takes away the interface nightmare, I would say, that customers have when they bring in different best-of-breed products and try to integrate it then into our ERP solution. So if you're interested in learning more about our composable architecture, we also have a couple of sessions for you. For instance, DT202, understand how composable architectures can unleash your business value, or DT105, the future of cloud ERP, modular, integrated, and ready to run.
Great. Jan, you mentioned extensibility. Is this my cue? Shall I elaborate on that now?
Almost. Let me give a little bit more strategic context maybe, and then I hand it over to you, okay?
Yeah, sounds good, yeah.
Perfect. Good. So ERP runs core processes, and on-premise systems were highly configured in the past, and customization was actually a key selling point for SAP and the whole industry. Every customer built extensions, and they build it right into the stack. And so while that has added a lot of value for our customers, it also prohibit them from adjusting or actually consuming our innovation, if you will. Yeah, so really difficult then to upgrade, to stay current, and therefore, of course, the standardization is at the heart of when we talk about cloud. So now the question is, how do customers get to cloud? And there's many ways to tailor your cloud ERP system also there. Cloud doesn't mean there is no extensibility, and it doesn't matter whether you're on S/4HANA Cloud Public or Private Edition to meet your specific needs, while you also want to keep your core clean.
So great. Maybe that's my past, but before we go on the topic extensibility, maybe you can elaborate a bit more what you mean with keeping the core clean, please, Jan.
Yes, and that's actually an interesting topic, one that has been discussed quite a bit with many customers, and I think it's not a super easy topic because a clean core applies actually primarily to the private cloud, because in public cloud it's by default clean, because we completely manage the upgrade for the customer, so we cannot allow them anyway to change our code and so on. But clean core means actually up-to-date, documented, unmodified, consistent, and cloud compliant. And that is the key for upgradability. And we know, especially in the private cloud, that has always been a challenge for our customers. They do want to consume innovation quickly, SaaS-like, so to speak, and therefore they need to stay current and upgrade. So cloud compliant means clean core. Extensions need to be decoupled from our code that we ship, and they must use stable public SAP APIs, events, and extension points. And we are expanding actually the coverage of our APIs. That is a request we are getting frequently. Customer opportunity with clean core is significant. We see that. We saw some early results. For instance, 5 times faster integration projects. We see up to 70% automation of processes and up to 90% time savings when it comes to master data creation. Also here we have sessions, so guys, check out DT200 on Clean Core or DT106 on transforming with an integrated business transformation toolchain, both of which are tomorrow. So back to you, Corinne. Now please tell us a bit about SAP's overall extensibility strategy for SAP S/4HANA Cloud.
Glad to do that. Okay, so let's start by looking at the different extensibility pattern. You already mentioned it previously. obviously, it's for system upgradability, it's very important to have a strict and clear separation between the SAP code and the custom code, because custom extensions should not interfere with system upgrades and updates, and vice versa. So here in the public cloud, we are clean core by default, and here we ensure that by applying this rule, by having a strict so custom code can only use release public APIs, whether local or remote APIs and extension points. And on the screen, we can see here the main patterns. So when developing directly on the cloud ERP stack, we can extend SAP applications. So on the stack, we have tightly coupled extensions and applications development there. So we can extend existing application using the public, so the release extension points, or we can build new applications and services directly on the stack. And here we use all the public released local APIs and objects and so on. And we can also enable some APIs for remote calls. And then on the right-hand side, we have loosely decoupled extensions and applications that can be built on the SAP Business Technology Platform. And what is really important is here we can also integrate with the cloud ERP using public remote APIs, whether they are from SAP or custom ones. Mm-hmm.
That's very, very cool. But what happens actually if such an OData API is not available, or it's actually not sufficient for what the customer needs?
Yes, this is an important point exactly, because this is the reality we face. In such case, we have a solution on stack, because these patterns are not isolated. They can be used together. So we can build also custom remote APIs on the cloud ERP stack to be used for side-by-side extensions built on the SAP BTP platform. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we do have a lot of different extensibility options at SAP. Yeah. Maybe it would be helpful if you could give a little bit of an overview what we all have there.
Of course. Let's now switch to the extensibility portfolio, because as you mentioned, we have really a bright portfolio, really rich to really support different use cases. And here we can see on the right-hand side the on-stack extensibility. And here the developers can work directly with in the low-code area using the so-called key user extensibility to enhance existing applications, like adding custom fields or customizing the UI, building some reports using web-based tools. And on the other, at the bottom, we have then the so-called developer extensibility. This is a pro-code offering to build full-stack applications and integrations here directly on the ERP stack. And when working on the stack, we work with the ABAP Cloud Development Model. And yes. Then on the right-hand side, we have the full offering, the entire offering on the SAP BTP platform for side-by-side extensions. And we can see there is really a smooth integration between the SAP BTP and the ERP stack. So in the low-code area, we have SAP Build Apps, SAP Build Process Automation, and SAP Build Workzone for building, extending, and automating applications and processes, and also for creating digital workspaces. So this is the low-code offering. And in the pro-code area, we have SAP Build Code and SAP ABAP environment, and with those two, we have the choice between the SAP Cloud Application Programming Model and the ABAP Cloud Development Models to build full-stack applications, integrations with ABAP and Java. So we see we have a really broad offering here for our customers and partners.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and I'm reading here a lot about SAP Build. So can you explain maybe a little bit how this now fits into the announcement that we just heard at the keynote around SAP Build?
Yes. Before I do that, I will add. So it's important maybe to mention this offering is the offering in the public cloud, but it's also available in the private cloud and on-premise. And in these two in the letter, we have also the classic extensibility, which is not clean core compliant. No? So regarding the announcement we heard today in the keynote earlier, so we have a big evolution in the sub-build code offering. So the complete portfolio we just discussed is now part of the SAP Build umbrella. It means ABAP has now joined the sub-build family. It's a big step for the evolution of a sub-build, and also some great benefits for our customers who now have a central point of access in sub-build for all their developments, whether on stack and side by side. So they really get all the capabilities and the whole assisted with Gen AI as capabilities. So it means, except the classic ABAP extensibility that we discussed before, everything is now part of sub-build. At the center, we have the development models, so ERP optimized with ABAP Cloud, the sub-cloud application programming model, and low-code, no-code, with ABAP Cloud being the exciting newcomer here. So new kid on the block. And we have, to jumpstart, we offer pre-built solutions here to our customers and partners. So the collaborative design of sub-build allowed really teams with diverse skills to work together closely to build faster applications using such pre-built content for industry and line of business. I must really emphasize here that generative AI is really integrated throughout the entire development process. Now, whether in ABAP Cloud, in sub-build code, or in sub-build process applications and other tools to really level up and boost the productivity here, the efficiency.
Yeah.
And we can see here that different types of full stack applications, extensions, integrations, as well as digital workspaces. So the whole palette can now be built with sub-build code. And maybe if I can also emphasize here, it means also that ABAP development projects are now first citizens in the sub-build lobby. We can create, developers can also create ABAP project and navigate switching the ABAP Cloud project and the other sub-build projects. And also we have an integration, seamless integration between the different models, which is really important here.
Awesome. Yeah, I have to say my own development organization, they're pretty excited about this stuff as well, especially the Gen AI that you mentioned. We are heavily already testing this and using it to really see how can we unlock for our own development as well some efficiencies here. And I have to say it looks very, very promising. So super excited about it. And there's also another session about this. I make it sound like I know all those sessions, but I have it written down here, of course. So it's DT100, Unlock SAP Build and ABAP Cloud interoperability to elevate your extensions. You will learn more on this topic, and don't worry, we show you later all those sessions as well, and they're also in the session catalog. I just want to point out every now and then where you can get then actually to a deep dive. But coming back to what you said on the SAP Build, which I think is amazing, it's coming together really nicely here. Also, if you look back a year, we talked about it already, and I think it's really evolving. And I just actually heard a great customer story from TopCon. They have been one of the first S/4HANA public cloud customers, and they have just used SAP Build to extend their existing SAP S/4HANA Cloud solution. So they've built, and actually their user, not their IT people, have built an application for a simple cache app. So provide simple order capture and then automated creation of follow-up documents, such as an outbound delivery, goods issues, customer invoices, and so on. And currently they run it as a web app, but they will also use it as a mobile app in the future. I think that is also important, that we always serve the mobile channel here as well. And then they will enhance it, for instance, to include a barcode scanner. The other cool thing, they will package that as UI template and make it available via the SAP Build store very soon. And I think that's what we want. We want customers to build those extensions. We want them to make them available to others. And of course, for partners, there's a great opportunity there as well to do the same. And frankly, Cloud ERP for me is also an ecosystem play. So therefore, this plays perfectly together.
Great.
So. the cloud extensibility portfolio with the evolved SAP build that we just talked about is available in the public cloud as well as in the private cloud, as well as in on-premise. You mentioned that. So can you advise our viewers here a little bit on what to do with classic extensions? You said that earlier, that are not clean core.
Yes, thank you for the question. That's a great question because, yes, like we discussed before, decoupling the custom code and the SAP code is key for smooth cloud-like system upgrades. And in the private cloud, we have this offering already as of release 2022. We have the ABAP Cloud System. And to provide a clear technical guidance to our customers and partners on how to deal with the existing classic ABAP extensibility, we've introduced the three-tier extensibility model, which categorize the code depending on the clean core compliancy. So tier 1 is clean core compliance. So this is the code that is written with the sub-build offering, including ABAP Cloud. And this is on stack and side by side by default here. Then we have the tier 2, which is the layer kind of mitigation tier that is used to enable classic APIs in the case of missing some SAP APIs for specific scenarios. Customers and partners have the possibility with these layers to enable this, the existing classic code for the use in the tier 1 on stack. And then the tier 3 is existing custom code built with classic ABAP extensibility, where we are allowed to even access any SAP object and even modified SAP objects. So here the clear guidance is retiring unused code, and the remaining code should be renovated and adapted in regards to this moving forward to the tier 1. And like we mentioned, the customers and partners will benefit from smooth upgrade because they can then easily access our innovations and so on. So that's the idea, and here I strongly recommend to visit session DT100 to learn about the clean core extensibility in SAP S/4HANA Cloud, and also to learn about the refinement of the three-tier extensibility model. So quite important here, strongly recommend it.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thanks so much. And by the way, I mean, we have a lot of discussions with customers, especially install base that comes over. And we know they do have a lot of this classic ABAP development. And we say here, so easily retire it, but it's a lot of effort. So on the one hand side, that's where we are investing in those Gen AI capabilities in ABAP, so that actually this refactoring, that's the other option, right? We call it renovate or innovate, can happen much, much easier. And that's a huge help for them. But more importantly, and that's why we also offer those clean core dashboards then in S/4HANA Private Cloud, that customers, once they start from there, so after their migration, they bring over some custom code, and now they start extending again, that they then actually follow this tier 1 and tier 2 approach. I think that's super critical. How to deal with what came over is always a tricky question. I think we will do as much as we can to help them there, but also our SI partners. But we know that is, of course, a challenge because customers, they have built millions and millions of lines of code over the years and decades.
That's it.
Good. So I actually have a cool example of on-stack extensibility in tier 1. So let me introduce this because more than 80% of customers using sales functionality in SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition, and they have enhanced their processes. So this confirms just how important extensibility is for our customers. And in the upcoming demo, I'll show an example of an extension which makes users' lives easier. Imagine I'm an SAP partner and my customer has asked for adaptation to their Fiori user interface. The company has a strong focus on customer experience, and many different employees engage actively with customers. Internal sales representatives who work on customer orders use customers' preferred communication channels. Those communication channels are defined according to customer classification. They want to see the customer classification and the communication channel in the app manage sales orders, which they use pretty much every day. But including both fields in the app would be highly beneficial for these users. And I'll use both key user and developer extensibility options now for SAP S/4HANA Public Cloud Edition. So let's jump into this little demo, and let's create a sales order here. And we have created 2 custom fields and added them to the UI using runtime adaptation. Now let's enter the sold to party, and we can see that the customer is classified as A. Now let's see what has been done to fetch this value. In a data model of business partner in SAP S/4HANA, you can assign a customer classification to each customer. And I don't want an additional extension field here persisted with every sales order. I want to keep the value in the single source of truth, which is the business partner. And therefore, I leverage the concept of calculated extension fields offered by ABAP Cloud. The UI is enhanced with the calculated field, which is filled in the body implementation then. And using key user extensibility, we fetch the customer classification information from the release CDS view, which ensures then lifecycle stability. So let's go back to the sales order, and you can see what communication channels are maintained for customer. First, now let's change to customer 2. The customer classification is already changed to B, and the communication channels are adjusted. These values are fetched from an external system. In our case, is the SAP Sales Cloud. And now let's see how we bring them actually back to our Fiori UI. In the custom field app, you can see that the customer field of type code list based on a CDS view is mapped to a specific value help view. And this value help view was implemented as a custom entity using developer extensibility. And thanks to ABAP Cloud, we can fetch the allowed values on demand from the external system using OData client proxies. And this is implemented in getAllowed.com channels. So now, instead of collecting this information from different apps and systems, the internal sales reps see it directly from the UI. And that is pretty much also a use case which I mentioned earlier when we brought Sales Cloud into S/4HANA Public Cloud into Grow. Those kind of scenarios, of course, we need to enable. But I would say, in a nutshell, there are many ways to extend our S/4HANA Cloud systems, and we are continuously building out APIs for maximum flexibility.
Well, great. Yeah. Jan, you also mentioned in the keynote earlier that you showed something about Gen AI Hub.
Yes.
And here I would like to just also give some word on the role of Gen AI assistants in the extensibility area, which you already tackled a bit. And we mentioned it, we are integrating Gen AI assistants throughout the complete development flow, the entire development flow for developers. So in the area of application and extensions development, it means that we will really level up the productivity by generating cloud applications and services. So developers will have the possibility, using natural language descriptions, to create important components such as business objects, data models, and business logic. And this will be done thanks to our digital assistant, Joule Copilot. And Joule Copilot will also help in maintaining code qualities with code by explaining code or generating unit tests, test data, and also producing developer documentation. So, and in the area of workflows and automation, Gen AI's capability embedded in SAP Build will help edit and summarize process, form, and decisions using natural language, which makes automation easier and faster. And last but not least, in the area of integration, AI-driven use cases will be discovering customer landscape using UCL, so the unified landscape, customer landscape, but also detecting anomaly using AI and machine learning, as well as automatically generating integration flows based on integration scenarios to really connect to SAP applications or applications to business partners. So it's really important. And here we have already a lot of delivery, like in the sub-build code area early this year, and new capabilities are coming. In the ABAP area, we are going to provide very soon Gen AI capabilities also in the ABAP Cloud. And we had also already a beta version running where we collected feedbacks, and in the first half of the year, in Q1 2025, we are going to deliver there. And other areas, sub-build process automation, successful beta program, and new capabilities are on the way by the end of this year. And SAP Integration Suite has also released some features. So like you can see, we are really integrating Gen AI capabilities, assistance everywhere we can to really boost the developer productivity.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think the 2502 release for S4 Public Cloud will be a big milestone here in that regard, but also the AI we build on top. By the way, of course, here at TechEd, we have again some sessions on this topic in application development and automation, as well as artificial intelligence. There's all tracks and lectures and jump starts around Gen AI assistance tailored for SAP development. I think something that's extremely relevant here also for the community out there.
Great.
Good. What's next?
What's next? I think we can continue with some information to share. You already shared them. Maybe I can elaborate a bit again on the Joul's ABAP developer capabilities.
We definitely have to talk about more about AI. I mean, there cannot be a TechEd session without talking about AI. So please, let's dive into it. Maybe just two things I want to kick off. We talked about AI in the developer experience, and that's super important. But what we talk most about typically is AI and SAP product capabilities. And I think both things are super important. Those are the things that we ship to our customers, and then whatever is available in developer experience, important for us when we develop software, but also for our partners when they develop add-ons or extensions, and then for our customers, of course, that have a lot of people who are very familiar with ABAP development. So I think there's unlimited opportunity, and you talked about it already, what's coming with 2502 in S4HANA Public Cloud, but maybe tell us a little bit more specifically about Joul's ABAP development capabilities going forward.
Thank you, Jan. Exactly. So like I mentioned already, application development will also be here a big use case in the ABAP world. We are going to really boost the ABAP developer productivity, but also support our customers and partners in transforming their custom code, classic custom code, into ABAP Cloud. So this is also the support we are bringing here. And also we are planning to provide an ABAP AI SDK to enable developers to also embed easily AI capabilities in their own business applications and processes. An important use case here I would like to emphasize on is also the transform use case, because it plays a role in the transformation from the classic SAP ERP to the cloud ERP, so to S4HANA. So here we are going also to enrich the custom code transformation apps to provide assistance in transforming classic ABAP code into clinical compliant ABAP code. And this is also something important in the RISE project here. So,
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Corinne. I think there's, again, sessions to be checked out. Yeah, 80-107, 80-180, and 80 AI 104 for more information than also on this one. And as I mentioned, let's also talk a little bit about the role that AI is playing in our product strategy and our portfolio. So let's switch to the next slide. Business AI is really shaping up our portfolio, I would say, and capabilities in both the public and the private cloud. And actually across all lines of businesses. You see here for Cloud ERP, it's how we bucket it actually in 4 areas. Go faster, manage proactively, take actions from insights, and automate business processes. I think those are really kind of the themes that we have seen that are emerging, and in which we then deliver the capabilities here in our Cloud ERP solution. Also here we have more sessions then available for you. The one is DT100 DT103, which is SAP Business AI in Cloud ERP. So you learn all about which use cases are in there, what you can expect. And then there's DT104, enabling new AI-driven interactions in S/4HANA Cloud with SAP Fiori. So also a lot of things that are happening actually on the UI to make the life of the end user much, much easier. Mm-hmm. Good. I think that was a lot. So I promised already, I didn't remember all those things. I had them here on the screen. But again, as a little summary, we wanted to show you this here. Please take a screenshot. Then you know which lessons you can visit or you should visit to get some more details on all the topics that we have touched on, basically very high level right now in this overview session. And of course, you can find all of this then in the session catalog as well. So I do believe it's time to move to Q&A. What do you think?
Think so too.
Perfect. I think our experts have been answering some questions in the background already, but let's see what's available live.
Yes.
Good. Here we do have some questions coming in. That's great. So maybe let me start with the first one. How is SAP S/4HANA Public Cloud Edition positioned in the market and how relevant is it? Maybe I start with this one.
Yes,
so certainly S/4HANA Public Cloud, we are seeing significant uptake. How do we position it? Primarily for net new names. Yeah? So this is for us really an opportunity to gain market share, to grow our business, and actually gain new customers that haven't been with SAP before, to offer them a state-of-the-art SaaS ERP solution. To be honest, we have really reached a tipping point, I would say, since 2021. We have seen tremendous growth now, since we also repositioned the offering in the market. And now also in 2024, again, we see significant growth in this area, primarily at the moment in the mid-market, upper mid-market customers. But also we do have a lot of install-based customers that are actually deciding for a greenfield approach. So they, like a PwC, that decided to start completely fresh and do that based on S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition. So therefore, for us as a company, it is extremely relevant because it will drive a lot of growth, especially in new customers, which is necessary for us. We do see the install base conversion, those customers that go brownfield, especially the large ones, the complex ones, they typically choose our private cloud edition, but everybody else is looking into the public cloud, and we continue to heavily invest there to make sure we have a broad coverage from a capability perspective, but also really deliver a true software as a service ERP product here that is open to other products in our suite, as I mentioned earlier, but also, and that's really important, to an ecosystem that we invite to build extensions to that solution. And also that is happening more and more. So I really believe that is the future for us here at SAP. Good. Let's see what else we have. Here I picked this one. I have learned how to develop ABAP Cloud on SAP BTP ABAP environment. Does this mean now that I can reuse this knowledge also to develop extensions directly in SAP S/4HANA Cloud? Maybe you can answer that.
Glad to do that. Exactly. So that is also one of the most important and very beneficial thing is that the ABAP Cloud development model is the same on the different stack. And what you use, what you learn on the SAP BTP can be fully reused in the public SAP S/4HANA Public Edition as well as in the private cloud and on-prem. And maybe the only thing we should have in mind here is that, of course, the release APIs might differ, and but regarding the development model itself, it's the same. So really.
Perfect. There's another one that comes in here. My understanding so far was that public cloud follows a fit-to-standard approach with all the extensibility options. Are you now withdrawing from these approaches? Not at all. I think what's really important to understand, with S/4HANA Public Cloud, we do deliver a best practice. And we go away from this fit gap analysis, but tell customers here, this is how we would run your business based on the best practices that we have collected over the last 50 years across all industries and so on. And then customers just have to figure out, okay, can I run my business on this? Or is there still gaps? And how do we fill the gaps then? And often the answer can be extensibility. Because often customers have either something that's very specific to them because it's a secret sauce, or it's something they want to do for whatever reason, and they should, because every ERP that I have seen does need some extensibility, also in the cloud world and also in the SaaS world. I personally even think that it will be a huge differentiator, and whoever is going to win this race here in the SaaS ERP market is the vendor that's able to offer very powerful extensibility options to begin with. Of course, customers want to take a more a strict approach, and they want to make sure that their teams or their businesses basically don't deviate too much from those standard processes. That's why there's much more possibility to restrict that. But as we have seen, there's also very powerful extensibility options, and you said it, it's by default the clean core, so they cannot hamper with the upgrade that we run for our customers, so that will always work. Yep. And since they're using clearly defined interfaces, also the extensions won't break. And I think that is super important, and that's why those things go actually together very, very much hand in hand. Fit to standard plus extensibility where needed.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Good. Then we have another one here on Joule. Maybe that's one for you, Corinne. How deep is the Joule integration into private cloud capabilities? Can we expect to see more AI functions?
Of course, we are working and we have it in mind, but I can really recommend to take a look at the roadmap here to understand which capabilities will also be delivered with the next major private cloud release. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And does it mean Private Cloud Edition is primarily for migration from ECC to cloud? Well, if I take this one, I think no, not necessarily. The Private Cloud Edition is primarily for install-based customers that want to go with a brownfield approach or a conversion. As you know, we are offering a conversion from ECC to S/4HANA, where you can take over a lot of the history, so to speak. And many customers do that, and then they say after they start some transformational projects, some cleanup, standardization, and so on. But those customers typically choose the private cloud as a target. I would say everybody who's a new customer or all customers that start with a greenfield approach, they should look primarily into the public cloud, and then there might be reasons why the private cloud is advantageous for them. Maybe because certain capabilities are not there, or basically maybe in an industry like life science and manufacturing where we don't have GxP compliance yet. So those things need to be then considered. But I would say if you really cluster this, net new names and greenfield, primarily looking into public cloud conversion, iBase, and very, very large customers, primarily RISE.
Yeah. Maybe we can also mention that what we see is that most of the time customer has a hybrid scenario set up with private and for some areas, the public cloud. Mm-hmm.
Good, let's pick one more question, and that's for you. How does SAP Build Platform helps developers for large-scale S/4HANA migration projects from traditional SAP ECC landscape?
With ABAP Cloud being part of SAP Build Code and all the tools we deliver and the Gen AI's capability that are coming there, as I mentioned, the transform use case, that is where we are really tackling this aspect, at least in regard from the custom code, because when we talk about SAP Build and its code, so here we will really provide Gen AI capabilities in this regard to support our customers in their way transformation.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Corinne. It was a pleasure. If there's more questions, of course, we have our experts that are continuing to answer them. So let's wrap it up.
Yes, thank you, Jan. It was also my pleasure to join you today. And maybe before we end the session, check out this SAP TechEd Learning Zone and find a lot of great content. You have access to free self-paced learning content, hands-on use cases on the for each of the content tracks, and also benefit from the exclusive 25% discount with your SAP TechEd virtual registration. Connect with the experts, exchange, expand your network, and share your knowledge with the community. Thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy the event.
Yeah, thank you also very much from my side. Enjoy the event, and we're going to have a coffee here in our living room.
I would just do that.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.